Good afternoon, everyone. We are the Group 3, and today we are going to discuss the topic Millennials and Filinnials Ethical Challenges and Responses. Next slide, please. Learning Objectives 1. To, to comprehend the bad and good traits of Millennials and Filinnials. 2. To identify the difference between millennials and Filinnials. 3. To understand the ethical challenges of millennials and Filinnials. Next slide. Introduction. We need to learn more about the generation's attitude about ethical decision making in the workplace as the eldest millennials start to assume management and other significant decision-making duties. And we need to understand the different generations po and ang mga factors kung bakit po ang generation noon at generation ngayon ay may malaking pagkakaiba at kung paano ba ito nakakaapekto sa decision-making ng tao. Next slide. Millennials and Filinnials. Millennials, commonly referred to as Generation Y or the next generation, are the demographic group that comes immediately after Generation X, 1970s to early 1980s, are starting birth years, and 1990s to early 2000 at ending birth years. 6 generations now comprise our civilization, according to Skiffman and Canuck 2009 and Pendergast 2010, which also provides the birth years, generation income, age range for each generation. And ang sabi po dyan, the generation of millennials has been very unique compared to past generations due to growing up with technology. Also, the parents of the millennials have protected them too much from facing any difficulty in their lives. Next slide. Millennials and Filinnials. Birth year 1901 to 1924. Generation income GL. Age range in 2013, 89 to 112. 1925 to 1942, the generation income is silent and the age range in 2013 is 71 to 88. 1943 to 1960, the baby boomer age range in 2013 is 53 to 70. 1961 to 1981, the Generation X, and the age range is 32 to 52, while the 1982 to 2002, the Generation Y, the age range is 11 to 31. And in 2003, the Generation Z, the age is 10 or younger. Next.
Let's talk about the differences of millennials and Filinnials. In Filipino definitions, millennials are called Filinnials as rendered from Filipino. And the second one is millennials have been described as the first global generation and the first generation that grew up in the internet age. And the Filinnials, term used to denote Filipino millennials. Then second is they are known to be nonlinear persons in terms of ethics, which traditionally is frequently misunderstood. They are also distinguished by a more liberal attitude to politics, economics, and morals. However, this assertion is highly contested. And lastly, Filinnials have been described as the advanced generation with technology utilization.
Next is the three separate effects on why there's a difference in attitudes between generations. 1. The life cycle or age difference brought by the influence of their life cycle or age. Life cycle or age effect. When a life cycle effect is at play, difference between younger and older people are largely due to their respective positions in the life cycle. And the second is the period, events, situations, and broader social forces affecting everyone. And dito naman po, period effects are seen when events and circumstances, for instance, wars, social movements, economic booms, or bust, scientific or technological breakthrough, as well as the broader social forces, such as growing visibility of gays and lesbians in society. And the last is the cohort, group of individuals having shared experiences growing up which influence and develop their attitudes or behaviors. Diyan naman po ay difference between generations can be byproduct of the unique historical circumstances that members of an age cohort experience, particularly during a time when they are in the process of forming opinions. Next slide.
Next, let's enumerate the 7 basic traits of millennials. Number 1, special. Millennials are the most educated or special generation because most of them receive education in college. Number 2, sheltered. Since birth, they are known to be from many forms of protection. They are the most protected generation because their parents set strict rules and boundaries for everything they do, which is not the same as other generation. Number 3, confident. They are known to be less religious, less serve the military, yet as the most educated generation. And also, millennials think and believe that they will be successful in their lives. Number 4, team-oriented or the disputed trait. They like to band together, band together to socialize in groups. In schools, they prefer working with groups rather than individuals, and they are likely to be described as the sociable generation. Number 5, conventional. They take pride in their improving behavior. Their taste to arts and music is less extreme than the previous generation. They are conventional because they are conventional in their attitudes and behaviors. Number 6, pressured. They wish to be ahead of many things, successful, and take advantage of opportunities, but avoiding taking risks. And number 7, achieving. They are known to be at many achievements as youngsters. Those can be associated with their being proactive in life. They want to excel further, to create memorable achievements in life, and to support and protect their future. Next, next slide.
Millennials' preference of social and moral values over personal and competence and its connection to the application of ethical principles. Before we proceed the ethical challenges millennials and Filinnials face, let's push through first to research focus on millennials and their preference for social and moral values over personal and competence in its connection to the application of ethical principles. In research conducted by Twench 2010, millennials were characterized as materialistic and narcissistic, narcissistic still There is a minority that will exhibit a value preference for social rather than personal and moral, and rather than competence as per Johnson 2015, dahil sa kanilang kagustuhan na magkaroon ng makabulong epekto sa buhay. Through the college years and social interaction na nakakakibat sa kanilang mga experiences, both of these play a huge role as well as effect of how millennials perceive and thus prefer social values. Moreover, according to Nielsen Global Survey dated the year 2015, the majority of millennials have a priority on the natural environment and the pressing issue of sustainability. Their perception of what is necessary and relevant reflects their broader understanding of the context of ethical decision-making. And hindi lang yun, ngunit pati na rin ang personal value orientation in the research conducted by Weber year 2017 ay nagsasaad na mga millennial ay kadalasang tinatanggap at sinusunod ang mga ethical standards, katulad na lamang ng pagpapatawad, pagiging matulungin, at pagiging matapat. Napatunayan ito sa research ni Weber sa pamamagitan ng kanyang isinagawang survey kung saan ang mga katangian na ito ay ginagamit at kasama sa moral value orientation. And next is sinasabi naman sa article nito, samantalang sa pananaliksik na isinagawa noong 2013 ng Ethics Research Center, pinapahalaga ng millennials ang ethical principles or a code of conduct. Kakaiba sila kung ikukumpara sa mga naunang henerasyon at sinasabing may mas mataas na porsyento na ang mga millennials ay walang kinikilingan. The coupling of the greater preference for social values along with the latest attention to moral values may result in a heightened level of cognitive moral reasoning. Sa stage of advanced cognitive moral development, millennials tend to shift their focus from society to the social ties that bind individuals or groups in the application of universal ethical principles. Nang sa ganon, dahil mas pinapahalaga ng millennials ang social and moral values over personal and competence values, and it affects how they decide, and their way of deciding may function at post-conventional level of cognitive moral reasoning.
Now we will discuss the challenges of millennials and Filinnials. So first is the racism. Racism is one of the challenges that the millennials and the Filinnials are facing in their lives because of the fact that we are divided by our race. Unlike the older generation who might as well be supporting racism, such as they think that their nationality or their race is far more superior than other races such as the Asians because they have whiter eyes, whiter skin, bluish eyes, and lighter hair. Unlike the millennials of today who are opposing racism, they are aware of the fact that we are all equal and we live in a world with peace. Next is the economy. With our current political, social, and other aspects of our economy, the millennials are having a hard time to make a living and to contribute to the economy. First is the low employment rates. They are worried about that will they be able to make enough money, such as finding a job or in order to get experience, but some other jobs are not accepting any applicants if they do not have any experience. Next is the older generation. This is one of the latest issues because some older generations think they are far more superior and they do not allow younger generations to voice out some of the problems in the society. We just want to make things right, but the older generation will not only say that you're young enough, so you don't know anything. But what they don't know is that we millennials are much more technical advanced in order to know something by also digging into the facts and sources. That's why our argument will always be valid. Next is the employment or jobs. Just like the previous example, which is economy, millennials are facing hardships by finding a job. Firstly, because some jobs are looking for experiences and only a few are willing to hire newly graduated people in order to train them and for them to gain experiences. Some companies are not willing to make an investment to people who have a huge potential when it comes to making a huge contribution to the company's growth and success. One factor also that may seem to contribute to the employment is the offered salary, which people are not confident enough that they will make a living. Next is the drugs. In today's generation, due to poverty, people are more likely to sacrifice and hold a sharp grip in a knife in order to make a living. Millennials also have the tendency to get themselves to be involved in drugs such as selling it because we can't deny the fact that drugs makes a lot of money, which turns out that some millennials are already millionaires or billionaires just by secretly having a drug association. In contrast to that, millennials also have the possibility of using illegal drugs that causes them to have an addiction. Next is the student debt. Unlike the older generation, due to the low salary and employment rates, millennials' student loan are doubled, unlike the older generation. They would be more likely to be in a loan than just rotting to death in absence of money. As the millennials face tough labor markets and stagnant labor wages, they will be forced to get a loan for tuition payment, uniform payment, and examination payment. Next is the climate change. The millennials are much more open-minded when it comes to climate change and tend to act because they think about the future. They do not just think about the present situation. Next is the social media or technology. In today's generation and also the millennials, we are more likely to get ourselves involved in technology through numerous social media platforms. We always tend to post some photos that we want in order for our social media friends to see. And we also forget our responsibilities as a person, as a son or daughter, and as a student. Next is addiction. Just the same as the social media and technology, millennials are prone to be more addicted to social media more than the older generation due to the curiosity of technology and being able to evolve in a very short time. Not only about drugs and technology, but people are mostly addicted to other things such as alcohol and many more. Lastly is the environment. Millennials are challenged by the environment because the older generation are not environmentally conscious as that of the millennial. We are more concerned about the future, and that's why we always want to act ahead in order for these environment issues not to be worsened.